Time. We talk about time a lot. We sing about time a lot, right? Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Little Steve Miller Band there for some of you old school 70s rocker dudes, right? Or how about this one? Time keeps ticking away. Time keeps tick-tock, 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 ticking. Little old school youth pastor stuff there, DC Talk concert. I still remember sitting in UD Arena, University of Dayton, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. But we're trapped in time and space. Time defines for us, in a lot of ways, the way we do life. We have no control over it, right? We have no control over time. Time just keeps moving along. It keeps rolling, right? The days keep coming around in this cadence, in this rhythm that we live in that's defined by time. I mean, when the time for something has come, it just happens. We don't get to say anything about it one way or the other. When time's up or time is here, stuff happens. Time is something we talk about, something we sing about. Like we ask questions like, where has the time gone? Or, man, how the time flies. Or we wonder if the time is right to do something. Or we say things like, time's up, meaning, look, it's time to get on with it, right? For seniors, and I'm not trying to freak you out, seniors, if you're watching this, but for seniors, we are moving towards a day that you have looked forward to, honestly, since you put in your room deposit, since your first campus visit, since you moved in that Saturday in late August, your freshman year. We're moving towards commencement, about 6.5 weeks away from it right now. And again, I'm not trying to freak you out, but it's what you all want. It's why you're here. It's something that you and your family will celebrate in the not too distant future. It's almost here. And time keeps moving just like that. You hear that in the background? The Milby Clock Tower. Time just keeps the hours, the minute hand and the hours hand just keep moving along. Spring. Oh, I'm recording this on Monday, and what a beautiful spring day. I'm sitting here looking down at the ground where the crocuses are starting to pop up out of the ground, and we're supposed to get rain this week, right? And the grasses will start to green up, and the trees outside of my house have started to bud, and soon those buds will pop out into leaves. And spring is something that it's hard to think about spring in the winter, right? Because remember what the weather was like 3-4 weeks ago? I mean, who would have thought we would have had a day like this? But we know it's coming around because it's locked into the calendar. It's locked into the seasonal movement and rhythm of life. It's locked into time. And as bad as winter can be, you know what? We're actually going to get to play baseball and softball outside. Spring will eventually come around. It happens every year. I mean, it's time, right? You know what I'm saying? Well, when Jesus became one of us, one of the things that we forget is that Jesus became locked into time and space with us. He allowed himself to live within those limitations. So the days moved on for Jesus just like they do for us, and the moments moved on for Jesus just like they do for us. And there's 2 times in the Gospel of John when, remember in the wedding at Cana when they ran out of wine and Mary came to Jesus, his mother, and said, you need to fix this, and Jesus looked at her and said, hey, my time hasn't come yet. There's another time in John, in the 7th chapter, right after Jesus had some more confrontations, which happened, right, between he and the church leaders. And it says that they didn't arrest him because his time had not yet come. Time. Paul talks about it in the 4th chapter of Galatians. He says that when the time had fully come, God sent his Son. I mean, time's all around us. We're locked into time. We're locked into the rhythm of minutes and hours and days. None of us can live outside of time. And Jesus didn't either. So much so that Paul said the language that he uses in Galatians is birth language. So it's almost as if Paul is saying it was ripe, it was spring. Things were ready and prepared for the arrival of Jesus. So he came. That's when he showed up. It was the perfect time for Jesus to come. How many times have I used the word time just in talking about time? You know what I'm saying? Well, in the 12th chapter of John, everything shifts. It's right after Jesus has this dramatic resurrection of Lazarus coming out of the grave. And remember, they weren't endeared to him. Again, this was another threat to the religious establishment. So you would think that sign would have compelled people and drawn them to Jesus. No. They wanted him dead more now than ever. And not just him, but they wanted Lazarus as well. And in the 12th chapter, he's having another conversation. And these Greeks show up and they ask Philip, who goes to Andrew, because they want to meet Jesus. And Jesus doesn't address the issue, but Jesus says something, that the time has come for the seed to fall to the earth and die, so new life can spring forth. It's the first time in John's gospel that Jesus says the time is right. The time is now. Now he says that so everyone around him can hear it. I mean, he's addressing the disciples, but do they understand what's happening? No. No more than we do from time to time. Jesus is moving towards his death. The way John tells the story, the triumphal entry shaped by that Sunday of Palms has already happened, and he's living in between. They're preparing for Passover, and everything that will happen that week is all about the time being right. Jesus' teaching in John's 13 through 17, his prayer for them, the betrayal of the disciples, the denial of Peter, the abandonment of all of his friends except for one, and his mom and some other women that showed up. Jesus would experience excruciating pain at the beating at the hands of the Romans and eventual death. The seed had fallen to the earth and died because the time was right. The time was now. The clock tower bells had rung. And Jesus said, the time is right for me to die. The time is right for me to be glorified. Meaning, as John writes retrospectively, some say 60 to 70 years after the events happened, meaning we would fully know now who Jesus is. Well, maybe. Fully know who Jesus is? Well, I think there have been enough events in this last year that have shown us that people don't fully know who Jesus is, which is, again, why the time of the year that we're in, the season of Lent, soon to move into the holiest weeks of all for the church, is a good time for us to say that the time is here. The time is now. For us to think about, for us to live into, for us to consider, or maybe reconsider, that Jesus is who he says it is. And he didn't come just to provide a destination for us, but he came to provide a life for us. So my prayer for us as we enter this week, and as Jesus said 2,000 years ago, the time is right for me, I hope that we hear that over the next week and a half, the time is also right for us to consider or reconsider the life that God through Jesus wants to provide for us so we can be all that God wants for us to be. This Lenten season could change everything for us. The time is right. As Eugene Peterson says, time's up. It's time.